FSF PopCast live show. And no, John, we were not late tonight.
Somehow.
Barely. We slid in just like right under the buzzer.
Slid in like Taco Bell slides out.
Oh, we're going to have a fun night. Okay. All right. So
before we started.
I'm done.
By the way, guys, welcome to the FSF PopCast. I am Tim. I am your host of this here nerdery, and always with my, I almost said trusty steed. I guess I did. I guess I said it anyway. Kathleen. I have my Kathleen. I have my trusty Kathleen. I am so gonna die for this.
No, because now all I can imagine is Donkey and Shrek with the. He thinks I'm a steed.
And one of our absolute favorite couples in podcasting. They host an amazing show. Sam and Anna from Growing Up Skywalker. Welcome to the podcast tonight, guys.
Thanks for having us.
I'm excited. We haven't been able to have you guys on in a little bit, and I'm so excited. I'm gonna throw this out there just in case. And then they both said yes, and I was like, yeah, all right, it's gonna be an awesome. It's gonna be awesome. Hold on, give me a few seconds. All right, Granzer, we're waiting.
You got this.
We're still waiting.
We were on time for no reason.
How dare we be on time? She thinks I'm a noble steed.
And we haven't had them on in a very long time. And then I remembered your wedding anniversary was like 2 months ago.
Yeah, we are officially no longer newlyweds. We're over a year in at this point.
That's amazing.
Look at you guys go. Look at all marital and stuff.
You haven't killed each other yet.
Yeah, we're like a few days away from our 5-year anniversary of our first date. So.
Oh, awesome.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
Dig that.
It was not that long ago that John and I realized we had been together for 13 years total.
Wow.
And I'm like, dude, I am not old enough for that.
Rookies.
I know.
Sorry.
We're here with 20.
27, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, still starts with a 2.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, Shane and I have been together. We've been married for 27 years, and we've been together for almost 29.
Wow. Does Kathleen know that we got to have dinner last time you were in Colorado?
I did know that, and I was uber duper jealous.
Yeah, she's only slightly jealous.
I haven't expanded my travel bubble that far yet.
Well, we're a long way.
Granzer says, hello, Kathleen, Tim, and Growing Up podcast. Where's John? Besides in the chat. He's just in the chat tonight.
John is
watching their tiny barbarian.
John is with our child and her hockey smile. So she did both top front teeth. Best.
Yeah, she's got the gold, and that's it. She's all 5-hole. So
cute.
It's a look. She's a feisty one.
It is adorable.
And it was so funny. So she does speech therapy too, and her speech therapist was like, these teeth have to go. This is crazy. They have been loose for like 2.5 months. And they finally both went at the same time. And she's like, all right, so we're done with THs for a while.
That sounds ridiculous.
Oh my goodness. She does the best Daffy Duck impersonation right now. Refuses to say sarsaparillus, though.
I would also refuse that one, to be totally honest.
I bet you I can get her to say it.
Yeah, I gotta warm up.
Do anything for Uncle Timmy.
That's right. That's Uncle Tim power right there. That's not to be used unwisely. You have to. You gotta. Go right in at it. Yeah, that's Sam and Anna Granzier. These are some of our dearest friends in podcasting. They host an amazing, and I do mean amazing, Star Wars podcast. It's awesome. Sam is a longtime Star Wars fan, and Anna came into it, I think, through the relationship, and they started a podcast, and seeing it through Anna's eyes, what she sees for the first time. Yeah, there's a link down below for their Instagram, by the way, guys. Not a link, but at least their user handle. I can always put the link in there. That's easy too. But yeah, go check them out on Instagram or wherever. Check them out. Growing Up Skywalker. Absolutely fantabulous, and I can't give them enough A+ or high marks. So
because I am horribly far behind on my watching, listening, and everything. Where are you guys currently in the timeline?
We are in So we've actually caught all the way up. We are no longer typewriting back. We are in Mandalorian season 2, episode 3 drops tomorrow, which is the Heiress.
Bo-Katan babies.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And, if you're getting into Star Wars via just the Mandalorian, you're like, I don't know who this is. I don't know who Ahsoka is. I don't know what Amon Calamari is. But we've been in it for over 4 years, and we'll catch you up to speed. We have the short version of who is Bo-Katan and what has she been up to for the last 25 years.
Yeah, we actually
I
did
love it.
the entire Mandalorian story for the episode this week, and it was nutty. There is so much lore there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a deep dive for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that one. All right, cool beans.
I think Bo-Katan is the perfect segue to our topic, though.
It is the perfect segue.
Look at me now.
And if I said Subway, I meant Segway.
I'm hungry.
No, actually, the food has not registered. It's actually in the body. It just hasn't
The blood sugar hasn't caught up to the brain yet.
No, I literally ran in the door. I'm like yelling at my wife, not yelling at my wife, but you know what I mean? I'm like, all right, I got to hurry. I got to get out there. I got to get everything set up. I'm starving. Can you make something to eat? Great. Pancakes? Fantastic. And I was like running through the house, eating pancakes as fast as I could. And I came out here and like slid in my chair across the floor. That's how tonight got started.
That's my dream. I want to run around the house eating pancakes on a Monday.
It's actually pretty nice. I was like,
yeah,
because we're kid free right now. So our oldest two have, obviously my oldest has moved out long ago. My middle child moved up 2 months ago up to the UP for a job up in Sault Ste. Marie. And my youngest is across state right now. She's over in the Detroit area because she's in a wedding this weekend and she wanted to go over now to help her friend get moved into their apartment and do all this stuff. And I was like, bye. I love her. Don't get me wrong, but bye. So, yeah.
Oh,
wow. Empty nester life.
It's weird. It's totes weird. Like ridiculous.
I'm so jealous.
Weird. We're still trying to figure out how to cook for just 2 people. And then we're not used to that. It's like everything is made for a family of 5.
See, and that's funny.
Leftovers, though.
When John and I got together, my cooking experience growing up, I didn't cook. I'm the youngest of 4. There were 6 of us. So I'm used to, this is how much food you're supposed to make. And then we ate the same thing for a week because it was the art. I cooked once and we just have to eat all of this now.
Wow.
That
we have
right.
opposite problem. I got very used to cooking for one.
Yeah, me too. But we figured it out. Well, let's talk about strong women. There's opinion.
Yes.
Topic.
We can. Where I'm enjoying the catch up, but also I'm like, yeah, we should probably talk about the topic. I was actually just thinking that. I was trying to find a nice segue, and Sam's like, no, just hammer to nail. Let's do this thing.
Yeah.
All right. So our topic tonight is strong female characters and why we need them. So the introduction that I put out on YouTube and everything talks about how in this day and age, every movie that seems to come out lately, if there is a female character, a strong female character somewhere in the story, not even a lead female character, that movie is getting just lambasted in reviews for whatever reason. And there's that 4-letter word that people throw out all the time, which I automatically deduct a lot of IQ points when you start saying things are this thing. If you tell me the movie's woke, I'm probably going to deduct some IQ points. It's just the way that works. Sorry, wow. But that's where we're at in life. But yeah, so yeah, I want people to look at this image that we have up on the screen. We're talking about strong female characters, and each one of those characters, and we're going to talk about a whole lot of other things going on tonight, but each one of those characters, their movies would not be the same without those strong females in the lead. And we're going to talk about why it's important to have those strong females in the lead. But before we do that, very quickly, I just want to say thank you to everybody who watches or listens to our podcast, because without your support, we aren't just talking to empty space. And clearly that is not the thing. We hit, and I forgot to include this picture. I was going to put it in the slide. But not only are we now the top 7 in the top 10 of all Star Wars RPG podcasts, with the help of awesome people like Sam here from Growing Up Skywalker. He plays a character called Udex in our Star Wars RPG. But our YouTube channel just clicked over 300,000 views. So Yeah, we've had a nice run lately and getting a whole bunch of new subscribers. So thank you to everybody who's watching, listening, doing all the things. Excited to have you. And Travis Mitchell, howdy, welcome to the show. So yeah, let's get right into it. We'll get to the rest of those slides later because they're not important right now. So strong female characters, why do we need them?
Oh, is that a question for us?
It's a question for anybody who would like to answer.
I know that Anna did her homework though.
She did.
I did, and I may shock you. I find myself disagreeing with the premise a little bit, Tim.
Okay.
Maybe I'll flip the premise for you. Do we need strong female characters, or do we need real female characters?
I like that better.
Because
explain the difference.
Yeah, okay. So when you say strong female character, I can think of about 100 more interesting adjectives off of the top of my head that might be more meaningful than strong. I can think of things like resilient female characters, courageous, principled, confident, complex female characters.
Okay.
So,
and then, like, Tim, the three you brought up there on the intro slide, just those three, what are they experiencing? Upper body strength. Honestly, Jin she acrobats through a slicey DC-15 trap, Katniss busting out the 15-pound longbow, and Linda Hamilton with an AK. Like, that's upper body strength. So that's something where if you take the bell curve of the two bell curves of masculinity and femininity and overlap them, that's one where generally masculine people would have a little bit more advantage. So already by judging a woman by a man's metrics and saying that makes them strong, that's discounting the concept of a woman and what makes a woman strong. Like, I think that, like, you're type of thing where you're saying, is a strong woman a more manly woman or a woman doing manly things? And I think goes to, that's not a real woman experience. That's just a woman pretending to be a man in some capacity.
I think it goes back to one of the really nefarious ways in which sci-fi has treated its female characters, which is to say, the more a woman becomes like a man, the stronger she is. And so I would even want to complicate and problematize, physical strength as one of our shorthands for a strong female character. So anyway, I have a ton of thoughts, but I just
I'm here for it. I love it.
Yeah.
And actually, I guess when I looked at the image that I used, I was not thinking of anything to do with their physicality. That honestly never even entered the concept of my thought process. My thought process was, I was looking at what each of those characters has gone through, what they are going through, what they're dealing with, and the complexities of life around them and the situations that they're put in. Like, each one of them is put in a pretty harrowing situation that was, obviously for Jin Herso, she had a no-win situation. And how did she deal with it and the strength that she showed? So when I would think of a strong woman, I'm thinking of all the things that you said, Sam, all those different complexities just wrapped up in that one word.
Yeah.
So I think we're talking the same thing. We just used a little bit of different language to express
I think
it.
too, knowing Tim and knowing his wife and knowing Kendall, his daughter, there is a lot of what he thinks of and refers to as a strong woman as, here are the things that they've overcome, like talking about what Jyn Erso dealt with and what Katniss was dealing with, but that not necessarily being their physical strength, but their ability to continue going when everything is falling apart around them.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up to highlight how, especially in media, oftentimes, like, strong stands in for physically imposing or physically capable, which is a looking at something through a masculine lens. And I don't think that's necessarily, like, I do think there's other ways of strength.
Well, I think it's shorthand for, especially in sci-fi, for writers believing that women deserve to be on screen, the more physically capable they are and the more capable they are in a situation. And that's really interesting. I love characters who are able to make the most out of a bad situation or who are able to overcome physically challenging circumstances. However, I think it's more interesting when all kinds of characters get to take up room on the screen, not just if they fit this really perfect action hero set of parameters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because like if we look at characters specifically, when we were looking at this today, when John brought the topic up and I was starting to think about it, one of the first characters I was thinking of was actually Evie from The Mummy.
Oh yeah, that's a great example.
She's not necessarily a physically strong character. She's clumsy. She knocks bookshelves over, but
I'm a librarian.
Right? She is so.
But she's not helpless either.
She's so determined, and the way that she puts up with the actually physically strong men in her life by outsmarting them is adorable. She's one of my favorites. She's always been one of my favorites. But just sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I was interrupting you.
You do that.
I do that from time to time, and I try not to, but I do.
It's the ADHDs.
It totally is. I'm sitting here like, okay, I think she's done. And go. No, crap, she wasn't done.
She breathed. You can talk.
But for one of the things that I always look at when I'm looking at, a female character, and I will forever hold people up to this. This is my standard. Princess Leia is my standard for a strong female character. Nothing that happens in Star Wars: A New Hope happens without her. She may not be the one that everybody looks at. Oh, she's got the light. She doesn't have the lightsaber. She's not flying the Millennium Falcon. She's not doing that. But without her, they don't get off the away from the Empire. Without her, they're not doing all the things that happen. That storyline continues in Empire Strikes Back. And my wife and I always joke when we're laying in bed in the morning and the alarm goes off. All right, Tim, it's time to be strong, independent women. Yes, it is. Let's go. But that's what I see out of Princess Leia. I see a very strong-minded, strong-willed woman who may not be gifted with the most, physical of qualities, as far as strength and athleticism or some of those things. But she
stands toe to toe with Vader, and
yeah, I mean, exactly. And in A New Hope, she's standing there with Moff Tarkin and Vader, and she's not backing down. She is a very strong woman, strong of mind, strong of heart, strong of personality. And, that alone should have told Vader, by the way, that was his daughter. I mean, come on.
You would think.
Yeah, right. I mean, I can hear my daughter across the room and I'm like, yeah, it's totally my kid. But yeah, to me, that's the measure. When I look at female characters, I'm going, okay, how does this character measure up on the Leia scale?
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly gauge female characters, whether they're in Star Wars or not. I'm like, yeah, they got nothing on Leia. We're good. So
that's so interesting. I actually think of Leia, and coming from this perspective as a person who spent 4.5 years thinking very deeply about Star Wars, I actually think of Leia as such a product of her time. I think of Leia as very much a second wave feminism female character, where she had to be the ambassador for all women whenever she was on screen. And she had to be everything, and she had to be so perfect. So maybe Leia is at the top of your scale because of how inaccessibly perfect she had to be in order to merit time on screen, Tim.
Okay. I've never thought of it from that perspective, but I will now.
Yeah, she's got to be the best shot. She's got to be funny. She's got to be ferocious. She's got to be tender. She's a princess. I think Leia is like the perfect woman.
Yeah, and Tim, she is calling all the shots throughout, but then especially in Empire and Jedi, she's kind of a payload that everyone else moves around with them. I think A New Hope is almost the high watermark for the character as far as being a strong character, mostly for the scenes where she is like, all right, you guys have obviously bumbled a rescue, so I will take over from here. And we get to see that in her appearances in Rebels as well as in the Kenobi show. And I think that's what brings, because those are much more modern. And so that shows how you can have a character who does have it all, who does have that strength of presence, and make it a little bit more explicit.
Okay.
Yeah. I think as media has evolved and as we have gotten at least a little bit better about incorporating women into scripts and giving them time on screen, I think the pressure has lessened for female characters to have to do everything all as one person.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think Leia is amazing. And I love when women don't have to be everything, when they can be real and they can be flawed and make mistakes,
Agreed.
but still deserve screen time.
Allowing them to be human instead of having to be this picturesque version of perfection of whatever it is that the writer saw as the perfect woman, or
Mhm.
you know, in that time frame. I want to go back to one of the comments that we got from some of our people out here on YouTube. Well, I got to find it. Sorry, I scrolled past it. There it is. All right. So Travis says, in modern story, I left this up on the screen for a little while earlier. I was going to bring it up, and then it wasn't a good time for it, but it is now because we mentioned modern storytelling. Travis says, in modern storytelling, it seems writers are afraid to make female characters human instead of showing vulnerability in the face of conflict.
I think that might be. I recently read a very good book called Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green, and I really recommend it.
Oh, I love John Green.
It kept me up at night crying because like tuberculosis is a solvable problem and it wouldn't be particularly expensive. But one of the things was how infantilizing the Victorian view of women was before the understanding of the germ theory of tuberculosis, because you had these waifish, vampiric, weakened, childlike women who were dying in their prime, and it was so beautiful and so tragic and all this. And that is still the female beauty standard to this day, despite all the other things which have broken down in terms of like how we look at tuberculosis, because now it's stigmatized as opposed to being something almost sought after for its beautiful quality. Okay. And so having a realism to women, I think that brings up two forks. One of them is that for people who have not taken the time to individually explore their relationship with their role in the world, their gender, their station, their class, whatever, any sense of other might be scary. And especially because throughout your childhood, you are just propagandized over and over again with all these views of all the media you consume and all the childhood stories you're told. And so much of it is older or reliant on older source material that it takes a long time to shift the view of what a character looks like. And so people become afraid of, I guess, identifying with people who are different than them because they haven't exercised that muscle.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And how does that connect to the idea of female characters not having vulnerability?
So I think that if people have not explored themselves enough to see vulnerability in themselves, then they might outsource their vulnerability to a subgroup of humans, women, who are historically viewed as vulnerable. And so like there's this always thinking of women as vulnerable. It's this cycle of continuously thinking of vulnerability. And I think that part is acculturated rather than real. So in a way, the moral and philosophical and monetary conservatism of the media environment to like, hey, there's safety in remaking the same old thing is always going to be repeating the lessons of the past, which is otherizing women.
I think I look at this in a different lens. I always think of women having to earn their place on screen. And I think women characters like start below male characters automatically. And so if writers show women experiencing vulnerability, they feel like they're putting those female characters at a disadvantage. And I think maybe compassionately, but also paternalistically, they don't want to do that. So I often think about Peggy from Captain America.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Not from Mad Men, from Captain
Other
America.
Peggy.
And she is in charge of this regiment of male soldiers, and they are bad-mouthing her. And she goes up and she's in her red lipstick and her little pantsuit, and she punches some guy in the face who's bad-mouthing her. And that would be shocking behavior from a male character. But because Peggy starts at a disadvantage, I think female characters have to engage in almost like outlandishly or cartoonishly extravagant displays of strength to start to bring them back up to a level playing field with men. So any vulnerability there is a disservice to Peggy from a certain point of view.
Yeah,
because it's almost like she had to throw the punch for her to stand out on screen at that moment. She couldn't just walk up to him and dress him down with words. You think that she had to add the physicality to get attention?
she had to prove herself.
Exactly. And that's such a burden to put on your female characters.
But I think
it is. Yeah.
I think it forces the concept of vulnerability, because if we look at this and say the only way for a woman to move forward is for them to do something outlandish, and that any show of vulnerability is a show of weakness as opposed to what it actually is, which is just a show. It's just a real thing. If you are vulnerable, you are vulnerable, and that's the end of the story. It doesn't make you weaker or stronger. So it is enforcing the patriarchy on men by saying the male attitude is you cannot be vulnerable. And it's enforcing women cannot be vulnerable because that makes them even less. It's a double negative. It's two demerits as opposed to one.
Right.
And so looking at vulnerability intertwined with femininity, and we're doing a disservice to men and women, masculine and feminine roles.
But then somehow, if a male character shows vulnerability, then that makes us like him more. Because, now look at how sweet and gentle he is.
We all love Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, because he's tough and tender. He's a single dad. He's so sweet with Grogu, and then he can whip the butts of anybody who threatens them.
The book of Mando is this thick, and it's 3/4 empty. Everyone reads whatever they want in there.
But I mean, you think of characters like Joel from The Last of Us. He is not a good guy. He is not a nice man. He is out there killing and doing what he says he needs to do for his family, for the better good. But we all love him because of how gentle he is with Ellie. Whereas Ellie starts out as this innocent young kid who then learns from Joel how to be this murderer, how to defend herself, and somehow, like, their stories crossing like that, and all of a sudden it's this is amazing, this is perfect, look at how strong she's getting, and look how sweet he is, and it's like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Tim, will you flash up that comment about Captain Marvel? I think that's so interesting.
I was actually waiting. I was going to put that up.
Well, here's your
Travis says, for instance, Carol Danvers in Captain Marvel comes off bland and perfect, where the Marvels presents her as more quirky and awkward while not weakening her. She also becomes more compelling.
Yeah, so one of the ideas that I think is so interesting is that when you give female characters no vulnerabilities, you invite backlash. You get comments about Mary Sue's. They become untouchable, they become inaccessible, and then people start to project a lot of their own insecurities onto these characters because they're too perfect. And I think that happened with Captain Marvel. And I love this comment for pointing out that the more real Carol Danvers got, the more people could actually accept her as an icon, as someone to look up to and live up to. But when she's too perfect, when she's too strong, you don't create room for us to really identify with these characters. They're aspirational rather than relatable.
I thought that was a really cool comment from Travis, and it makes a whole lot of sense because now there was I think that the flack that came for the Marvels movie was just leftovers from the Captain Marvel era, where people didn't like her because they had their reasons. We're not going into all those reasons, but there was reasons, I guess. I strongly say I guess, because I loved the movie personally, and I love the concept of Captain Marvel and the character that was being put forward. But I will agree with Travis's comment. I did like her better in the Marvels than I did in her own solo movie. Because again, we're seeing a real character, a real person, not just a caricature of a character and what this, a person could be in a perfect projected state.
Mm-hmm.
I think that like the way to encapsulate that is have characters be larger than life. I mean, there's a way to there's a genre of stories where it's a slice of life and everything's, these are perfectly normal people, but that turns out to be like people want escapism. That's why we go into media. Like even the reality TV, it's always who has the biggest personality.
Mm-hmm.
And doing a lot of like D&D or other tabletop role-playing games, when you come up with an NPC, you're like, I need the 3 most outlandish things about this person. They're a fish person. They're a millionaire. They want to like, they're greedy, and that's a whole character. When you have someone and you try to add like a lot of nuance in a main character, then you are stuck into one of these very simplistic archetypes, like strong female lead. And by having quirks or strangenesses in there, then it makes it, I guess, more palatable.
Yeah, I think too, if you're going to have somebody be, the archetypal strong female lead, and I'll put that in air quotes, then, it's the same thing I would look for when it comes to a strong male lead. I want them to have a personality. I want them to have humanity to them, where I see them and I look at them and go, okay, they have strengths. Okay, they have flaws. And you're able to judge that person based on their strengths and their flaws, and not just that they do all these things, that they're checking all these boxes for perfection. And because Superman is great, but Superman's also more fun when he's flawed and he has his moments of humanity.
Yeah.
Which is why I really enjoyed the latest Superman movie.
The latest Superman movie was fantastic for that. Because, so let's use the new Superman, Clark Kent, as an example. If you tried to just throw that Superman into a box labeled strong male character or strong character, mm-hmm. he would fit, but not perfectly, because he's got so many other interesting qualities about him. He is tender.
Right.
He's romantic. He's creative. He is insecure. And so I think he would fit very awkwardly in that box. And so if we're not asking our male characters to fit perfectly in that box, we shouldn't ask any character, especially not a female or
absolutely.
A non-character to fit in that
for
box.
Sure.
Yeah.
And if we're spending all of our time declaring that there is like this box and that we do appreciate characters when they have nuance, when we take our strong men like Superman, who's the strongest of strong men, and say, we like it when they have nuance, then we should definitely look at any female lead and say, also, yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
The nuance.
Absolutely agreed. Travis has actually got a bunch of really good comments in here. I'd like to get a couple more.
Travis. Come on, Travis.
Travis is killing it in the comments, by the way. So thank you for your comments, Travis. He says here that Sarah Connor is great as she starts out as someone who's helpless and then becomes almost a villain in response and killing Miles. It takes her son to stop her from doing that.
I mean, that's just a character arc right there, and that goes back to the whole deep lore of the Terminator stuff. And really, it is on the tip of my tongue. Who's the director for that? Didn't he also do Aliens? Who am I thinking of?
Oh, he did. Well, he did the one with the blue people and they put hair into the tails, and
he also do Terminator.
Avatar.
There you go. He's done all this stuff. I think for Aliens and for Terminator, it's like you can have this be anyone. We're just putting a woman in the place, and then they're going to act as any normal human being would.
Right.
And it's funny that for one reason or another, and the reason is we don't have enough women taking leading roles, we look back on this and say, oh, that was a strong female lead. But I think that it's a hero's journey. Like if someone comes back in time to kill you and you beat them, you're a hero. It doesn't matter who you are or why you do it. That's just cool.
I would be interested in thinking about why we believe it is important for characters to be strong at all. Maybe we need to define that before we think about specifically female strong characters. So, like, why is it important in our media?
Well, for me, as a man who was raising a daughter in the modern society, it was important for me to have strong female characters that I could show my daughter to have. Number one, I wanted her to have somebody that she could look up to as a hero, like I looked up to Han Solo and Luke Skywalker when I was a kid. I wanted her to have that media relevance, to where she could look at a character and see both the positive and negative of those characters, but see where the positivity won out. So for me, that's one part of it. And then I think too, just like in anything else, where I think we're in an age where being able to identify with what we're seeing is so very important, because so many people have been looked over for so long, and certain character types and certain, certainly the female gender. And then we also go into there's a discussion of races and nationalities and all these other things, where it's important to have representation for those people so that they can look at the screen and say, I can identify with that. Now, whether that's a strong female lead or just a female character who is maybe flawed and maybe has some character issues, some defects that she has to work through to become a better person. And that's fine too. But I think that, when I think of a strong female character, like I said earlier, I'm not looking at the physicality of the person. I'm looking at what can we learn from this person to help us appreciate their character, their story, what they're going through. Is there something about that character that I as a man can identify with and appreciate, because maybe the story's not written for me? And I think that's the important thing. I think many times when people are looking at, and we're talking about social media literacy, we're talking about people who are looking at every story across the board and expecting it to be written for them. And that's not the case. I mean, we have characters, and we've talked about several of them tonight, who, it's a cool character, but it may not have been written for you. And it's okay that it's not written for you. It's okay that it's written for somebody else, and we should be okay with that instead of branding it with a 4-letter word.
Yeah, I would say for me, and touching off of this point of yours, Tim, one of the most important reasons why I think we would want aspirational female characters to be really present in our media is that it is an exercise in empathy, especially for people who wouldn't naturally identify with these characters. There's a lot of really interesting literature that says that women and minorities learn from a young age to identify with male characters because that's all that's around for them. If you are a man or a white man or someone who's really well represented in media, you might not ever have to develop that muscle. But if we have interesting, compelling, strong female characters in mass media, it might help people who are not used to it develop the muscle of empathy by saying, I see something interesting in this character. I want to be like this character. I see myself in this character. And empathy, I think we can all agree, is something we need a lot more of these days.
So much.
I agree. Here's another comment from Travis. He says that it's part of why I actually really like Rey. She comes off like she knows everything, but we soon learn she only knows what gets her by. She's closed off, having to learn to trust the living.
Rey's an interesting character. I'm close your ears on it. No, she'll forget. Like 2 years out before we hit the sequels, but so
Anna knows nothing.
Yeah. The story. I always have to go back to A New Hope because people are like, oh, the Jedi have never been evil. I'm like, look at the first talk about Jedi in A New Hope.
The Jedi have always been evil.
Jedi have always been evil. But
they've always had the capacity for evil.
Exactly. But what happens
evil-esque.
to Skywalker? He knows all about droids. He knows all about the secret discords where the terrorists are talking about the rebellion against the Empire. He gets a job as soon as he joins up with the rebellion because he gets, he's a good bush pilot. That means he probably knows how to fly this absolute beast of a T-65B to go put some spin on a proton torpedo and shove it in a Death Star. And like when Rey does half of that stuff, people are like, oh, no, this is pretty unrealistic. Like
Mary Sue.
What do you mean you can fly that? How does she know how to use a lightsaber? Yeah.
How is she able to fly? How is Luke able to fly? How is she able to repair it? How is Luke able to repair it? It's the same skill sets. You grow up on a desert planet, you're just good at stuff. But
sorry, go ahead, please.
But this idea of how I'm running off of what Anna said here, which is that like so many men have had their little pigeonhole found for them in a movie which speaks to them, and it's not like it's insane how catered to that particular group is, and what we're left with is people who are uncomfortable not being catered to. It's selfish.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. He actually follows up his previous comment. Travis does. And by the way, Travis, thank you for joining in the comments. You are absolutely killing it tonight, my man. He says, Rey starts hating it when someone takes their hand, but ends willing to take someone's hand. She's a child, emotionally tethered to the trauma of her life, never growing out of it.
You know what? Trauma's hard.
Trauma is hard.
That's why it's traumatic.
Yeah. Speaking of, this is completely off topic, except for the fact that we're talking about trauma. There was a video yesterday on TikTok. I'm standing in the middle of the kitchen. My daughter's been out of the hospital for 6 years. Okay. 6 years.
Nice.
This year. And I'm standing in the kitchen flipping through, and there's a video of a kid in the hospital with all the machines and everything hooked up to him, and, and waterworks.
Yeah.
Instant.
See, I know the fact that, like, I'm making the beep noise over here and Tim's doing the stop it.
Yeah, I was. There's a reason why my phone is silenced 24/7. I can't stand beeping, ringing noises anymore. It just can't do it. The therapist said that would go away. I think they lied.
Did you stop going to therapy?
Perhaps.
That didn't go away, honey.
Tomato. So anyway, I'm working through it. I'm using the tools I was given.
We hide our feelings with jokes.
Absolutely. I think that it's important that we realize in context that we're talking about characters that need to have some level of substance to them, but they also have to be human. It's cool to have, it's a little bit more different when we're talking about comic book characters, because comic book characters, superheroes, are intended to be super. That's the first part of the word. They're going to do things that are fantastical and outlandish and all these things that normal human beings cannot do. But when we talk about them from the human perspective, when we're looking at their qualities, their characters, and things like that, it's important that the character, the human behind the superhero, is still human. And I think that's one of the things that Marvel really got right with, like, the Jessica Jones series. We saw all her flaws and everything. That's something they got right with the Daredevil series, and everything that he goes through. But yeah, I'd like to see, I like to see those types of characters where, yes, they can do the things, but we're still building off a base that's flawed because they're human. And I
love Jessica Jones too. Like, there's so much about her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's an amazing character, and I absolutely love her. And I'm so very ridiculously stupid excited that she's coming back.
Now, there are a lot of things that she does very, very wrong.
But she can drink like a champ, so there's that.
And women's wrongs.
Yeah.
But Timothy, sure, she can drink like a champ, but that's not a good thing because she didn't.
No, it's not. But that's what she's using as her trauma response. And it's not a good trauma response, kids. Don't do that. Don't do that. That was a bad joke by Uncle Tim. Okay, so
my daughter's listening to you, Timothy.
Yeah, this is also probably true. Let's see. Travis also says, with Rey, I think it's harder to grab onto her because she is a girl growing up with no parents at all, which is less identifiable than Luke, who has two guardians. Yeah, she's a little feral.
Well, see, that's actually that's weird. Luke being the weird kid, because he's the, like, the number of kids who have a normal upbringing in the Star Wars universe is like 4.
Weird.
Yeah. Parenting is very fraught in Star Wars. We've been talking about that a lot as we covered The Mandalorian.
And Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
That was a big thing in Skeleton Crew. The contrast between these kids who, are
Yay!
stuff and then running around, and then all of a sudden they have to become Star Wars kids, lays bare how much of the heroic aspect of it arises.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I think maybe that's a similar type of argument. It's like, a strong child. Like, what does it take
Thank
to be
you, Travis.
a child lead?
I actually love this word you're using, heroic. Like, maybe what we're really asking for is heroic female characters. Maybe strong is just not the right descriptor, but heroic, I think, has a lot inherent in it that is, admirable. It means you're showing courage. You are.
You can be heroic in so many different ways that don't require physicality.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I'd be willing to co-sign that, and we can rebrand the podcast as the heroic women in modern media.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a very good point. I think when we're talking about this, we have to, like, I keep coming back to this. We have to be willing to accept that there are women, and I'm saying this to the guys who are in their jorts and tank tops. It's completely okay. They're what?
With their neck beards.
Yeah, it's completely okay.
Sam, don't turn your head.
I know.
Don't show.
It's been a while. I'm kind of scruffy. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You at least have beard on your chin as well. It's not just.
Yeah, that's just itchy.
Yeah. I mean, we just need to be able to look at people and look at them as people, not that this woman having strength of character means that the men around her are lessened. That is never implied in any of these movies, that the female is so much better than the man because she can do this, or this. It's like when we go back to the discussion of Rey, when everybody got all, and I do mean righteously butthurt over the fact that she knew how to work a lightsaber. She could work a staff. She fought with a staff. It's the same basic. It's a stick with a glowy end, kids. That's the only difference.
She didn't point at her face.
Well, this is true. Luke Skywalker. Oh, this is a gift for my dad. So anyway, but yeah. Travis also says, why I like The Last Jedi. Before our heroes can take the hero's journey, they must take the journey to becoming heroic.
Ooh.
Or like the concept of answering the call. We talk about that kind of every major character in our podcast, because you have a bunch of people who refuse to take the call or take it. And I think we've talked about that at length with some of the really interesting stories.
Yeah.
But I'm peeking over on his shoulder here and looking at two of my favorite female leads from a book.
Oh, yeah. Well, I wasn't sure if you would want some examples of everyone's favorite sci-fi characters. So I did do a little bit of brainstorming.
Go for it. Rip them off.
Oh, well, the one that came up to me just now that is a good example of a female character whose femininity is an important part of the story, who has flaws and foibles, but is also super compelling and really moves the story along, is, let's call her Cyanite in the 5th season series by N.K. Jemisin. And
so the main character of the 5th season book.
Yeah, all three. Well, yeah, it's just the first one, really. And she is a fascinating character for being a mother and a daughter and traumatized and angry and having superpowers. And all of that together turns into a really fascinating story, which is really worth exploring, that manages, I think, to not become trite. I mean, it definitely doesn't become trite. And I think the reason is because it captures so very much of a story. It's a real masterpiece. 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. I highly recommend it.
That might be the most accomplished sci-fi trilogy out there. It's a phenomenal read.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But who did you choose?
Well, the first character that came to mind for me was also a sci-fi novel. and this would be Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir from the Locked Tomb series. There's a character named Harrowhark Nonagesimus.
That's quite the name.
She's a gremlin. She's like not a good person.
She's so terrible.
She's pretty terrible, actually, but she is also utterly her own person, and she is ambitious and ruthless and deeply traumatized and also learning to love. And I think that's such a phenomenal character to be just like a human.
Yeah.
She's like 40% human by mass, but
yeah.
So that makes me think too that
her clothes are 100% human, which is real weird. But.
Yeah.
There's book series, multiple book series that I like that have some very strong female characters in them as well. Because I'm gonna say I'm a basic white girl. Well, let's go with that. The ACOTAR series, so the Court of Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J. Maas. Nesta is one of the strongest characters ever. Like, I absolutely love her because she is turned fey against her will. She then lashes out being angry about it anybody would be angry if they got changed into an immortal being without, wanting to. And having grown up as a human who hated fey, to then taking that trauma and taking that anger and learning to be a Valkyrie and embracing the immortal strength that then she has, all while still trying to deal with the fact that she is falling in love with this guy that she doesn't want to fall in love with because she didn't want any of this to begin with. But her whole story arc is so fun and so inspiring on some level because, like, at the beginning, when you're focused on Feyre, Nesta's a horrible character. She didn't do anything to help her sister. She didn't help cook. She didn't help hunt. But then you have this woman who becomes this incredible warrior and incredible part of their family. But like looking at the building, the character development she has is fantastic. In Assassin's Blade, the whole Throne of Glass series, there's some incredibly strong female characters in that too. In Crescent City, there's incredibly strong female characters. Sarah J. Maas is very good at writing.
I do have to say, Kathleen, I did read the first ACOTAR book and I liked Nesta a lot. So maybe that's my problem because I can see objectively she was not a good person in that book, but she's actually somewhat sympathetically drawn.
And that's the thing, is that it gets better the further into the story that it goes. And sorry if you continue on. It's been around long enough. I feel like it's past the spoiler alert, but like, there is so much to her story. The giant orange book back there is all her. That is just her story. Like, it is the biggest of them, and it is all her. It is fantastic, though. She is so much fun, and I think because you can relate to her so well with if I was thrown into the situation, I would be angry too. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't want to be told what to do and where to go. And no, you caused this. I'm not doing it. Would be a natural reaction, I think.
Tim, how about you?
Well, I am not as cool as you guys, and I don't read as many books as you
Tim
guys.
Tim doesn't read the Fairy Smut.
I do not read the Fairy Smut.
Running multiple podcasts.
Yeah.
Tim is tired most days, and when he does get a chance to listen to something, actually, the things that I'm listening to right now, so because I absolutely love the book Ready Player One,
mm-hmm.
and what's that?
Big fan.
Yeah. Absolutely love the characters in that book, and I love the fact that Sam in that book is written so well, and she is such a strong character, and she and I'm using the word strong again, but we'll go with heroic. I think she's a heroic character in the way that she acts and the way that she does things, and as you're paying attention to it, she is a flawed character. She has her own problems and her issues with the rest of the people in that she's chasing the eggs with and everything else, but at the same time, she's, when needed, she's dependable, she's reliable. She she says she's going to do something, she's there. she's always there to support her friends and help out. And at her base, she's a good person because she wants. They talk about when if we win the egg, what are we going to do with the money? And she's like, the lead character whose name all of a sudden is just out of my head. He's like, I'm going to go buy all these things. I'm going to have this great spaceship, and I'm going to go off to another planet and do all these things. And, and she's like, or you could.
Parzival, which is his.
Yeah, I can only think of his name, which, I mean, is it on the Funko Pop that I have back there? No, that just says Parzival too. But yeah, I have the whole ready.
No, you guys are making me feel very self-conscious about my office here.
But he's like he wants to go buy all this nerdy stuff, and she's like, yeah, or we could help people and we could do these good things and we could help humanity out. And he's like, oh yeah, I was gonna do that too. Wade.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, Wade Watts. There it is. It took me like 5 minutes for my brain to click in. The blood sugar's starting to flow, baby. All right. So
what's interesting is that we all chose characters from books.
Yeah, I have others if you would like to hear them.
Well, honestly, I wasn't going to choose a character from a book, and that was off the cuff because you guys were talking about books. I was like, well, I don't want to be the only one not picking a book. And I had talked about Princess Leia earlier. I was going to talk about this fine character here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not just because in the 90s I was not understanding that there was a strength and depth and clarity to this person's character. It may have been for other reasons that I liked her. But I was also in my teens. That's a whole other topic. But yep. Scully from X-Files is a very determined person. Going back and watching any of the X-Files stuff now as an adult, you see a person with strength and morality and character and all the things that we've talked about. Yes, there are flaws in her personality, but the positives of who she is and what she is outweighs any of those minor flaws. But at the same time, not diminishing her partner Mulder to where they can work together and do the things and everything. And so I think that's to me, she was a very good representation, especially for 90s era media, for a character that was pretty well written.
I mean, she was also doing a lot of covering for him because
this is also true.
Mulder's not like a good FBI agent.
No, Mulder's a bit of a slacker and a jackass, but
that's real POS. He's like, it's not a good.
Yeah,
he's the hero. But she's really enabling his BS.
Yeah. No. Okay. That is one of her character flaws, and I will not overlook that.
She's a real woman.
Stand by your man. Anyway, but yeah, that was the one that I was thinking of earlier.
A good one.
I think if they're all besides Tim's peer pressure there, I think the fact that we came up with some books might be indicative of how important it is for media moving forward to draw upon the more experimental media, like comics or books where there's a lower cost of entry, because, to have someone write a book costs $50,000, but to have someone make a movie costs $500 million. And so draw on the things, the vast array of women in culture rather than just rehashing the same BS over and over again. Because if we keep telling the same stories, then we're going to keep having the same problems in the way we tell stories, which is that we're focusing on what makes a character a strong female lead versus what makes a character interesting.
Well, or at least deepen and expand the story, because one of the characters that came to my mind is Mon Mothma from Star Wars, who I think people liked her in the original trilogy, but there wasn't a lot in the text to go off of. And then we explore her character in Rebels, and then we get her again in Andor, and all of a sudden she is a complicated and haunted, complex, really incredible character who is navigating politics and family and subterfuge and danger. And then she
Mhm.
becomes the moral center of the New Republic, which is just incredible to watch.
Because in
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi, she has less screen time than Size Noodles. So
That is probably true.
it's definitely true.
And doesn't Size Noodles deserve it? I think she does. But yeah, but Mon Mothma, I think, really benefited from getting a fuller story.
I agreed. So Granzer's a little bit behind us. He was having some internet issues. He warned us earlier that some of his comments would be a little bit delayed. He says, when you talked about how to Luke know how to fly an X-Wing, my dad asked that in the 70s when the movie came out. He was joking, but it was still a good question.
He knew
It was a
how.
fair question.
He was flying the T-15 Incom Skyhopper, which you get to see the side panel of in his actually fantastic teen garage in A New Hope. And it's the little model he's flying around with the three things.
Mhm.
That is the ship he has. And as he's sitting there next to Wedge and Biggs, it's old Wedge, not new Wedge, because Wedge got recast. He says 2 meters, and the old Wedge says, can't hit something 2 meters, the size of the exhaust port. And Luke says, I used to bullseye womp rats in my T-16 back home. So that is how he knew how to fly. But it is kind of like the scene from the first Independence Day when, who was the guy who flies the biplane into the UFO? Like, is that Bill Paxton?
I think so.
I think it was.
No, that was Randy Quaid.
Randy Quaid.
Right.
If you can fly a biplane and do like acrobatics and you put you in an F-22, like you're going to do better than me, you know? So like,
Right.
You know,
Yeah. Actually, Granzer, that might be a great question for a top 5 list. And I would be, yeah, I might take that one on. That's a good suggestion. So, because I just did my top 5 Disney animations. So, you know.
So, talking about Disney, though, other characters that should be mentioned, Edna Mode.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because she is not physically intimidating by any means.
I mean, she's a little physical.
I said no capes.
She is a self-actualized woman, and I love that for her.
I love her so much. She's my mom. She is 100% my mother.
Wow.
And it, like, they look alike even. It's hilarious.
That is alarming.
My mom is a seamstress. My mom made my wedding dress. Like, it is intense.
No trains.
something I love about that is that is also that is looking at a strong character through a female lens, through like the traditional female things of clothing and small stature and strictness, which is a really interesting way of creating a character in contrast to upper body strength. And you know, that's what I'm stuck on still. It's my thesis.
All right. I like where this conversation went. It gave me a lot to think about, especially just in the concept of using the word strong instead of heroic because of the implication of that word. Because immediately, I think most people are going to think when you see strong, you're going to think physicality. And that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about strength of character and purpose and intent, not I can bench press half the building and look how cool I am. So, but yeah, I do like where this conversation has led, and I'm hoping. Look, I bear no pretense that this conversation is going to encourage somebody to stop thinking that things are woke, although they're not, and you should stop thinking that. And it's just characters, and it's just movies, and it's just fun, and you know, there's enough other craptastic things in the world right now where you probably shouldn't care so much about that, guys. But you know, I hope that if nothing else, the intent of this conversation has helped people to maybe recast it in their own mind a little bit and kind of look at things perhaps in a different light than maybe you did when you first signed on and you first started listening. And maybe the next time you go to a movie, instead of thinking that this movie is that W word, which I've already said more times a day than I have the rest of my life.
You're the only one who said it.
I am the only one who said it, but I hope that you can look at a character for being a character and not a part of a political discussion, because that's not really what's going on. It's really not that serious, guys, and it's not that deep. So anyway, but at the same time, it it's kind of that deep. So, all right. Sam, Anna, remind everybody where they can find your level of awesomeness.
Oh, well, Growing Up Skywalker is on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. So you can definitely find us there. We are also on every major podcast platform. So if you listen on Spotify or iTunes or Castbox, you'll be able to find us there as well. Just search Growing Up Skywalker. It's 3 words. And we've got a Patreon. So if you want extra deep cuts, we don't swear on our main show, and we try to keep it a little bit more topically light.
Spice Run, baby.
Yeah, baby. If you want those deep cuts, if you want us to let our hair down and swear, you are probably going to be interested in our Patreon, which you can sign up for as little as $3 a month and get access to hundreds of bonus audio shows.
We sometimes do like the full hour. Like sometimes it's like a 5-minute thing and we're like, oh, cool. But sometimes it's a whole book report that takes us weeks to put together. So
the Spice Runs are fun listens, by the way. I enjoy those. Those. All right, guys. As a reminder, coming up on the FSF PopCast. Now, this week, we talked about this movie earlier, but this week on the podcast is Martin Harris from the most recent Superman movie. He is the General of Boravia. But yeah, go check that out. It's a really good movie. It's very well done. Just the casting is chef's kiss. I love it. And I'm seeing all these behind the scene clips of David Corenswet and James Gunn talking about how Superman's supposed to be, and it's 2 guys who are really concerned about how this character is viewed and seen and trying to keep it to the comic. It's so good. Anyway, check that out. That'll be coming out. Actually, that comes out on digital. I think it might actually be out now on digital. So if you hadn't get a chance to see it at the theater, first off and foremost, go see it in the theater because you need the theater experience for that movie. It is so good. Secondly, it's coming out on digital, but go check, but it's there. But yeah. And then now coming up next week, and you can already get this. Actually, it comes out on Wednesday, rather. Excuse me. If you're a member of our Patreon channel, you have early access to this, and you could already be listening to our interview with Paul Hirsch. He's an Academy Award-winning film editor who worked not only, I put Empire Strikes Back on the title card here because Empire happens to be my favorite movie of all time, and he was the editor on that, but he's the Academy Award winner for A New Hope. He worked on both of those movies, but he's also worked on a whole bunch of stuff. I don't have time to go through all the movies that this man has worked on, but he's worked for John Hughes, Brian De Palma. He's worked for, of course, George Lucas and a ton of other notable directors in Hollywood. And it's just a really cool conversation with a guy who really has been around the business for quite some time. And really cool stuff. So that comes out on Wednesday. And then now next week, there's another cool interview, but if you want to know what that is, you're going to have to sign up for the Patreon. Ooh. And we are only $3 a month as well to get in and get early access and learn about all the cool stuff. And that gives you not only early access, but it gives you access to everything that we've put out there, the behind the scenes stuff, extra content all the pre-show recordings that we do with our guests. If we have time to put those up, because and when I say time to put those up, like we've had them on the show, and if they didn't have to jump right into the interview, and we talk, like the one that I'll be putting up for next week, amazing conversation, and I think we had like 20 minutes beforehand and another 25-30 minutes afterwards, and the stuff afterwards I wish I would have recorded. It was that good. But yeah, so she's really, really cool. But yeah, check it out. Anyway, I think that's all we got. So that's all, folks. Buddy Jesus says we're done, so we're done.
It was so great to talk, y'all.
Yeah.
Oh, abso-freaking-lutely.
And it's funny is like John actually messaged me during the show with are you gonna respond? Are you gonna do anything? I'm like, I'm intimidated by Anna's intelligence. I need a minute.
Oh my god. I yap.
It was just the way that you spun it and the way you were saying things, and I'm like,
We love your yapping. It's fantastic.
I love your yapping.
Aw.
But like having that moment of the, I didn't think about it that way. Dang it, she's smart.
Oh, crap.
Why does Tim always get me on with the smart people and make me feel dumb?
I didn't want to be the only one, so
It's my.
I can't be the only box of bricks in the room. I got to bring somebody along with me. So
Ridiculous.
all right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching, listening to the FSF Popcast. And then, like I said already, if you haven't by now seems like a very good time to remind you to check out Growing Up Skywalker. We love them, we adore them, and they're fantabulous. Oh, and then, hey, while you're here, you might as well click like and subscribe. So if you haven't done that already, it's a free action, much like crying in D&D. It costs you nothing. So on that note, may you continue to live long and prosper and let the force be with you. I screwed that whole thing up. I'm done. Okay.
Copyright 2025 FSF Podcast. Reference any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF Podcast. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpopcast.com.